All right, in this video, we'll be looking at some roundworm basics. The roundworms are in the phylum Nematoda, so sometimes you'll see them called nematodes. There are around 2,500 species of roundworms, and they inhabit all sorts of places, both free living and parasitic, which we'll talk about some of the parasites in a minute. One particular roundworm to make note of is the roundworm called C. elegans, which is the C is just abbreviation for Caenorhabditis, which is why we just say C. And so C. elegans is kind of become the standard model organism for many biological studies, everywhere from neurological development to addiction. And so, very important species, so much so that scientists have mapped every single cell in its body and know what it does at every stage of development, mapped its whole DNA, everything about it is known. And so it makes it a very helpful species for study. C. elegans is approximately 1 millimeter in length, very small worm, but very important for all biological research. So, a little bit about the form and function of roundworms. Cylindrical in shape, they have a flexible, non living cuticle that you can see on this very blurry picture here. This cuticle basically allows the worm to kind of keep its structure. It doesn't have a skeleton or anything, and it has a hydrostatic skeleton, so this cuticle keeps all of that intact. It does move through muscular contraction, but all of its muscles are longitudinal, and so you can see there that muscle layer is right underneath the cuticle. It doesn't have circular muscles, and so that hydrostatic skeleton actually helps it to move through through its environment. It has a pseudocoelom, which that's not pseudocoelom. Get there in a second. Pseudocoelom, remember, is filled with fluid, but is only partially lined with mesoderm. And the pseudocoelom is where the organs are located. It has two digestive openings, the mouth and the anus, and as opposed to just one opening like we saw in the flatworms. This digestive canal is called the alimentary canal, which it will be called that in all the rest of the animals that we're going to talk about, actually. Um, so you have parasites and free living worms. Most of the free living worms are filter feeders or predators, but then you have some the parasites that are actually anaerobic, and so they live without oxygen. For as far as nervous system, they have a fairly well developed nervous system with a nerve cord that goes the length of the body and this kind of circular brain that encircles the pharynx, which is the in the part of the digestive system right past the mouth. And so this brain ring of sorts, and most of them are dioecious, meaning two separate sexes, and they have internal fertilization, though there are examples of monoecious roundworms, like C. elegans, for instance, is monoecious. So let's talk about some parasites found in roundworms. These are particularly these are human parasites, just because they're something that is something that we would think about. Ascaris is one of the most prominent worldwide. Estimated that 1 in 6 humans worldwide are infected with Ascaris, which is over 1 billion people. That's a lot. A female Ascaris can lay 200,000 eggs in a day, which will develop into the juvenile state in around 2 weeks, which means that they would soon be reproducing also. So this can be a problem. You can see here that they could even block up the digestive tract, which is not a good thing. You can get them through uncooked food, basically handling anything with soil on it. So in places where there's not the sanitary and hygienic levels are not to the same standards as this part of the world, there would be the probability of having this sort of infection. And so with over 1 billion people being infected worldwide, this affects quite a bit of the world. The next type of parasite we'll look at are called hookworms, and hookworms look like some sort of like specter or something. This guy's really thinking hard about hookworms, but really the only way to avoid them is to just not go barefoot in the mud, particularly like livestock mud, which is a mix of mud and other. because they can actually get into the foot, kind of burrow into your feet and get into the tissues of your blood, and will go through your lungs and find their way into your intestines, where they will mate and have children and continue their wonderful life cycle. So these are pretty rough things. Trichina uh, was used to be a big issue with like uncooked meat, particularly uncooked pork, and these worms would get into pigs and then embed themselves in the muscular tissue of pigs and form these cysts, and then people would eat pork and wouldn't cook it properly, and then they would get these cysts inside them and get trichinosis, which is a pretty bad disease, but it's a roundworm disease. And then lastly are filarial worms. These worms they have just one big group of human parasites, and they're known to inhabit the subcutaneous tissue of people, like, in your eye or under your skin. These are particularly bad. They cause diseases like elephantiasis is one example that causes enlargement of appendages. And then heartworms in dogs and cats are another example of a filarial roundworm.